Well, hello everyone, I'm Amber Marshall, and I just wanted to check in with you and see how you enjoyed episode 3 of season 10. I can't believe that we're already almost, already 3 episodes into season 10. It's been quite an incredible year, and it's been fun. It's been refreshing for me, and I just wanted to hear your feedback, see what you think, because I thought that you guys would really love these scripts, and only time will tell. So why don't we start with any questions that you might have and let me know. I'll do my best to answer whatever I can. I'm here on set right now, so we just finished up our lunch break and now we're getting ready to film more scenes in the afternoon. It is, what time is it here right now? About 20 after 3. We always eat lunch late here, if you're wondering. But we just also had a read through for our newest episodes coming up, so that was kind of exciting. We get to see what's happening in episode 15 and 16. So the year is almost over. We have 2 more scripts to receive, so we don't even know what happens yet in episode 17 and 18. So we're in the dark as well, which is kind of exciting to see where that goes. So, we've got lots of comments coming in, lots of hearts. Yes, if you tap, how do you get hearts? If you tap the screen, I think, or
tap like.
Yeah, tap like. Okay. So obviously we see Amy in a whole new light this year. We see her as a mom to be, and that's been really fun for me because it's something fresh and new, and I can have a whole new sort of creative side to Amy because I'm sure pregnancy changes people, and they've wrote her at the beginning kind of not, I don't want to say lackadaisical, but not like Lou. Lou was full preparation mode. She was saying, okay, I have to get this ready, I have to get this ready. But one thing I really liked about this episode that aired yesterday was the fact that this was the first time we saw Amy really excited. And we saw her sort of turning into that nesting mom, right? She was building the change table. And then I love how it ended with Ty coming home with the mobile. I thought that was just, I don't know, it was just a perfect end to the episode. So for those of you who haven't seen it, I'm sorry if I'm spoiling it, but that's what happens. We also got to see some really cool things with Endangered Species. And on Heartland, we try to cover a lot of different topics that are relevant to today and what's going on around us. And I know many of us were impacted and with the story of Cecil the lion. So we did cover that story, and we see that how Ty and Bob are affected by that as well, being so closely connected with wildlife. So what do we think of that? Did we think that's a cool new journey or venture with Bob? Okay, let's see here. Lots of comments, no real questions yet. Let's see. Now, you guys always ask me about Netflix and different broadcasts and things like that. I have no control over that. I have no... the best thing to do is contact whatever country you're in, the Netflix provider or the cable provider, because I don't call Netflix and tell them when to air Heartland. So, about those questions, let's ask questions about this episode or the last couple episodes in general. Because again, season 11, I don't know. We don't know any of this information until probably the springtime when we get all the ratings back and we see if you guys actually enjoy the show still, and then we can decide if we want to make another season or not. Okay. I know many of you have had a bunch of different ideas on Thai and Mongolia, and it's going to be really interesting to see this next episode because Ty has a lot of decisions to make. Bob really, really, really wants him to go, obviously, as you saw in that last episode. And I think you're going to actually be really impressed with Ty's maturity over this season and how he chooses to handle situations, and Amy being pregnant and him being a dad, and it's all going to be very fresh and new for Amy and Ty, which I absolutely love. Is it hard not working on the horses? Does that mean Amy this year is not riding because she is pregnant? It's, for me actually, it's been kind of cool because I used to ride every day on set pretty much. So when I got home, the last thing I wanted to do was get on my own horses and go for a ride. But this year, since I haven't been riding on set, I get home and I say, hey, Sean, which is my husband, let's go for a ride, because I don't get to do it all day. So it's been really refreshing for me because I have actually rode my own personal horses more than I ever have in my whole time of being on Heartland, just because I usually never have time to, and then when I get home I'm tired because I've been riding all day. Last thing I want to do is go saddle up my own horses. So that's actually been, it's been nice for me. I think there's yeah, it just, like I said, there's a whole freshness to this year, and that's been really good for me. Well, hello from Hawaii. There's people coming from all over the place tuning into this. And question, is Peter coming back? Yes, we will see Peter. We see him coming up fairly soon, I think.
Yep.
And do I own Spartan? Okay. Spartan is actually played by several horses. More than 20 horses have played Spartan. Now, this is because that character is required to do a lot of things that not one horse should ever be expected to do. So if we need Spartan to lay down, we bring in a horse that knows how to lay down. If we need Spartan to rear, we bring a different horse in that does that. Or to jump, or to stand there, or to run across a field, or there's a different Spartan for everything that he's required to do. So no, I do not own any horse that has ever played Spartan. I do have a black horse that a lot of people think is Spartan, but no, he's just another black horse, as with all the other 20 horses that play Spartan. The majority of the horses on the show are owned by John Scott, and he provides them to us for what we need, and then if we need specialty horses, then we bring in those. Will Ty and Amy have kids? Well, you are obviously behind in your Heartland watching, so stay tuned. And how far along is Amy in her pregnancy? So this episode, I believe she's roughly just over 4 months. So a lot of you were commenting on, oh, Amy's got a baby bump she's showing, and you were all excited about that. So we will see that progression of Amy's bump, which you guys all seem to love. I don't love it so much because I can tell you in the summer it was extremely hot to be wearing this giant pillow, basically, and we've gone through a whole series of different pregnancy bellies, I guess you could say, because a lot of people were asking, well, how did you accomplish that? So in that episode in particular, it was literally pretty much like a pillow. It was like a sewed pillow full of cotton that we put under my wardrobe, and that's what I wore. And then as Amy progresses in her pregnancy, it changes shape, it gets bigger. We actually had to change the consistency because as the pillow got bigger, it looked fake because it was just full of cotton. And so it would get bigger, and if I was wearing jeans or whatever, they would push in, and it just didn't look like the consistency of a pregnant belly. So we've switched to rubber, and so then it was like a big sort of silicone rubber. It's not that comfortable. Let me tell you, I'm really excited. If we go again for season 11, then Amy will not be pregnant. But like I said, it's been a really fun journey for me because it's a whole new experience to my character. And that's been fun to play because there's all sorts of things, like Amy's sick all the time, and it's just something that we've never seen her character experience. So that's been kind of cool. Yeah, see, if you guys are watching and you haven't seen season 10 or even season 9, I'm very sorry for all these spoilers. But you'll have to catch up. I'm sure it will be coming to you whenever your country decides to put it up. Is there any horses that have aired that really do have behavioral issues? No, because we want to have the safest environment we can possible on set. A lot of people don't realize that there's almost 100 crew members on set at any given time. That's a lot of people, a lot of very expensive camera equipment, lights, all kinds of things. So if there was a horse that actually was acting up and we couldn't quite control it, then there's the potential of equipment being damaged, people being hurt, anything like that. So all the horses that are on set are extremely well broke. They're very used to being around equipment, people, cameras, lights, everything like that. And we train them where they have already been trained for a certain behavior. So say Amy's working with a horse and it's constantly rearing or charging. Well, all of that is filmed in little bits and pieces. So we will have a trainer off set or off camera that's asking that horse to rear or making that horse have that behavior. So all the horses that you see on the show are very, very, very well broke. But they know how to act. All right. What do I like the most on set? I think my favorite thing about being on Heartland is being able to work outdoors in the most beautiful areas possible. Every day I go out, especially when we're at the Heartland Ranch, and I look around and I say, this is my office. This is where I work. And that to me is the most rewarding, and being able to work with such a talented and not only talented, but friendly and close-knit group of people for so many years. And we really do feel like a family, and I miss them lots when we're not filming. So it's nice to be able to have such a great environment and atmosphere with not only the setting, but the people, the animals, everything just all in combined is just amazing. Okay, is the Heartland Ranch open for tourists? We get this question a lot, and I so wish it was, because it's such an incredible place, and I know that so many people would get just as much as I do out of it every time I go there. But sadly, no, it's owned by a private family that Heartland rents from this family. So they don't really want tourists and fans and people coming onto their property. We rent it for when we need it, and then obviously the family that lives there that's their home. So I know that some of you have stumbled across it and found it in your travels, and I just ask that you give that family some respect and make sure that you don't actually trespass on the property, because we have had some people do that. But no, sadly you cannot go to the Heartland Ranch. You can go to Maggie's Diner in High River. You can't go in the diner because a lot of people think that it's an operational working diner, but you can go and take pictures out front, and that is right downtown High River. And they also have a museum there with lots of different Heartland memorabilia and things like that as well. Okay, let's see some more questions. How did I first get into acting? When I was 8, when I was very young, I was always constantly putting on little plays for my parents, and I would force them to sit there and watch me for hours while I made it up as I went along. And so when I was 8 years old, my parents put me into a theatre school in my hometown of London, Ontario. And I loved it. I couldn't get enough of it. So then when I was 12, I started going to Toronto, which was a 2.5, 3-hour drive from where I lived, and auditioning for television roles and movies and things like that. And my mom would take me down to all these auditions, and that's kind of how I got involved in that. Okay. Anyone have any questions? I see lots of things about baby Borden and that kind of thing. Let's see. Yeah, we're definitely going to have lots of characters returning this year that we've seen in the past, and lots of great storylines. There's a cool storyline that we just filmed not too long ago that involves Cassandra, and so there's lots of twists and turns this season, and I can't give too much away. What made you decide to live a Western lifestyle, and what inspires you to go in that direction? Ever since I was a little kid, I grew up in the city actually, and I always knew I wanted to live on a farm. I always wanted to have horses and cattle and dogs and cats and everything else. And my parents were very giving when it came to the animals in my life, because I did live in the city, but I had 2 dogs and 2 cats and rabbits and all kinds of things. And when I was 12, I think it was, I got my first horse, and I boarded him at a stable, and I went out and rode as much as I could every day after school, and I was riding English at the time. And then shortly after that, I think I was about 14, when I decided that I wanted to try Western riding. So then I got into that, and loved it, and mostly just trail rode and did that kind of thing. And then when I got Heartland and I moved out west, the Western lifestyle was just so abundant. It was everywhere and it was very accessible. So I think for me, it kind of swallowed me whole and adapted, and I love it. I would never go back. My family always says, so when Heartland ends one day, are you going to venture back east? And I just can't see myself doing that. I love Alberta so much. I've made a home here. My husband and I have a ranch here. So it's one of those things that I think you just know in your heart that that's what you're meant to do and that's where you're meant to be. How old is Remy? My dog Remy plays Georgie's dog on the show. She is 6 this year. She'll be 7 in the spring. And she loves working on Heartland. She gets so excited, and you can tell she just enjoys it. China, my other dog, is here. She's my little personal assistant. She comes with me every day. China, wake up. Come here. Come say hi. Come up. Come on up. Come on up. Look over here. What's that? Yeah, so she's been here for 8 years on the show, and she just hangs out with me every day, and she's definitely showing her age now. She's a little older than she was, and she sleeps most of the time, but I find she has a nice presence on set because it's like they use animals for therapy, and I think that animals just have a relaxing effect on people, and whenever she walks on set, everybody goes over and pets her, and she quite enjoys it herself. What happened to Lobo? Okay, we get this question a lot. And I always say we should have probably addressed this earlier on the show, but since it went so long, I don't think it's really makes sense to address it now. Lobo was the dog that Amy found at Mr. Hanley's farm and adopted, and then he got shot, and then her and Ty had to help save his life, and then he disappeared. Well, that was actually because the dog who was playing Lobo, who would have been very hard to double because he was a very unique looking dog, he was really old. He was, I think, 13 or 14 when he played on the show, and he had really bad arthritis. He was quite overweight, and he would overheat very quickly. So his owner was worried about him coming back for the next season because she said, you know, he's an old dog and she doesn't want to put any extra stress on him. So we just said, okay, well, that's fine. We just won't write him into anything. And since then, Nitro, the dog who played Lobo, has passed away because he was old and he died of natural causes and all that, but that's what happened to Lobo. So we just sort of pretend that he's no longer around, and that's why we have Remy now, because we needed another farm dog to kind of just fill that void, I guess. And it's always nice to see a farm with a ranch dog sitting on the porch, so that's why we did that. So do I have any input when we're filming scenes? And that's one thing I mentioned at the beginning of this post, that we just came from the cast read-through. So what happens in a read-through is all of us sit down around a table, we take our scripts, and we open them up and we say, okay, let's start from the beginning. We read it through exactly each character, how it is. And as we're doing that, we make notes. And we kind of sit at the end of the table afterwards and collaborate and talk and say, I really love this, but maybe we should rework this scene or have a look at what this character says to this character. So it's kind of an open table discussion on things that we would like to see or we wouldn't like to see. The majority of the time, the scripts are so incredibly perfect for what we're all feeling that there's not a lot of changes to be made. And I find a lot of the changes I make are animal related because I think I'm the most closely connected with the horse side of things. So I'll say, okay, I really like this story, but this doesn't quite make sense when the horse does this, or it runs out this gate, or it does that. So there's definitely room for input from all of us. That doesn't mean that it has to be changed or it gets changed, but it's nice to be able to have that freedom to talk about it. Am I going to sing again in season 10? Yes. Coming up very soon. And this was funny for me because I remember hearing oh yeah, you're gonna be singing again. And then I was like, oh, that's really cool. Like, I wonder when I'll get the song and how that's gonna go. And then they hand me some lyrics and a guide track and say, yeah, you're recording that tomorrow. And I was like, excuse me, I've never even heard this song. I don't even know, I haven't even tried to sing it, and I'm recording it tomorrow. So the whole process, I think, was just happened all in a couple days, and I was quite happy with how it turned out. It's a very emotional moment, as with most Heartland moments, but I think that it was perfect for what's happening. Yes, I love everyone I work with. And we covered that earlier. It's such a great family atmosphere, everybody. And I think that's one of the things with Heartland is that the show itself is very wholesome. It's a very close-knit group because everybody that works on Heartland is very genuine and just enjoys each other's company. And also the atmosphere makes a big difference. Being outside every day, you're not forced to be together in a small space, which helps, especially being with 100 people every day. You know, there's bound to be disagreements and things like that. But when you have the space to go and literally walk it off, and you're looking at mountains and horses and a beautiful vista, it definitely helps. Oh, Scott and Lou. There's some notions to that. That's all I'm gonna say. Okay. Oh, okay. So will Amy and Ty find out the gender of their baby? Now, I found this hilarious because there was so many comments from last night's episode on, oh my god, it's a boy! And I was going, what? Where did they get that from? So I'm not sure where that idea came from, but at this point, we have no idea what the gender is. So it's, yes, that was interesting. I'm glad that you guys all jumped to conclusions. But, yep, I can't tell you whether Amy and Ty figure out or find out what it is. But at this point in the story, from what you've seen, they have no idea. So, there you go. So they didn't choose a mobile with blue stars because it's a boy, because... What? That made no sense to me. But anyway, okay. Do any of my own horses appear in the show? Never previously, but season 9 at the last episode, second last episode, we introduced a little miniature horse named Monty. And I was able to use my own miniature horse, Talon, for this role. So we see Talon a little bit in season 10 as well. And that's the only horse that I've ever had that's been on the show because he falls under the specialty horse category because he's a miniature and there wasn't any of those on John Scott's farm, so we had to go find one. So he made it on. He made the cut. Okay, this is funny because what does your husband think of your pregnancy? And Sean, my personal husband in my real life, he doesn't come on set very often. And he showed up one day at lunch, or he had to drop, I think he was maybe picking up Remy. There was a reason he had to come midday. And he walks up to me and he goes, whoa! I was like, what? He's like, what is that? And I went, oh, okay, so now I know what I'm dealing with when I actually do get pregnant, because that was not the reaction I was hoping for. And he was like, no, no, no. He's like, well, I just saw you this morning, and it was just kind of a shock for me to walk up to you and see that. Because at the time, Amy was quite a bit further along than what we've seen. So I had a fairly big belly, and I was like, yeah, I guess that's true. If you never see that on someone, and then all of a sudden you show up and they just have a giant baby belly, it's probably a little startling. So I found that funny. So we don't have too much more time because they need me back on set right away. But I just wanted to wrap up and say that I'm really excited about this season. And I think that it's been fresh, new, creative, different than all the other seasons, which is pretty cool because after a show has been on the air for 10 years, that's sometimes what you run into. You don't want it to just become stagnant. You don't want to fall into the same sort of flow of each character. And this year I find that all of the characters, every one of them, has been given a new new journey, I guess you could say, and it just really has spiced up the whole show. So I'm very excited to see what future episodes bring and what you guys think of them. And make sure you tune in next Sunday at 7 for a whole new episode of Heartland. See ya.